Welcome back, psychologists. I'm your professor, Ryan Keith, and I am here to answer your questions about social psychology and COVID and our class and pretty much anything else that you guys ask about. I'm excited to have a chance to talk about a couple of important things with you. I've had a couple of questions about, I guess, the fallout from a last minute decision I made. We'll talk about what's going on there, as well as couple of persuasive technique and class format questions, but today I think is going to be kind of a short one, which is alrighty. Let me get my volume turned down just a little bit here. They're blowing that out just a little bit. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump right on in. One of the first things I noticed when going through questions for this week is that there was a little bit of unintentional fallout from a last minute decision that I made, which is like a really common thing. In fact, this is exactly the sort of thing that tends to stick out in our mind. And part of why we end up getting stuck in what Tim Harford describes as plan continuation in a couple of different episodes of his podcast. I want to say unintended consequences, but that's not it. Cautionary Tales. I really love the second season of Cautionary Tales just kicked off, and I was really excited to tell you guys that if you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, there's some really great episodes that tie in directly with COVID stuff. There's one it's specifically about a fire that takes place in the Beverly Hills Supper Club and about how there was this opportunity to get a lot of people out. But because we have a hard time imagining this kind of unimaginable scenario, nobody took action, even when it was incredibly clear that they should have. Kind of similar parallels to what we're dealing with now, where there are people who are experts who know things, who are telling us what it is we should do to be safe and why it's important to be safe, and yet we still have a lot of doubt about whether or not we should be doing that. And rather than feeling like maybe we're a bunch of idiots for getting things wrong, we say that, well, we're just human and doing what humans have been doing for, the last 50,000 years. So, let's go ahead and jump off talking about some of these unintended consequences. As you guys know, I posted an announcement last week that even though with the holiday we weren't going to have a live stream, so I didn't have the opportunity to talk to you about it then, that I was going to delay our, maybe I talked about it on the live stream a couple of weeks ago, that I was going to delay our research and analyze assignment. And that this specifically was a result of the nature of the assignment and the time that we're going through now, that it was an assignment that specifically asked you to disobey authority and to not comply with attempts to persuade you to do things. And given that right now we're dealing with a lot of people not doing what it is they should be doing, like, everybody should still be social distancing and wearing masks in order to look out for each other. And yet, if you go to Publix or Home Depot or to a restaurant for takeout, it's stunning the number of people you see who don't follow these guidelines. And so maybe it was not the best time for me to encourage everybody to do that sort of stuff. So instead, I decided to go ahead and postpone it, forgetting about the fact that on the upcoming test, I ask you specifically a question about this. So as a result, I had a couple of questions focused specifically on that. Can you please explain the short answer prompt? I'm a little confused. Are we answering these questions? Can you please explain it? I'm confused about the short answer prompt for the week's test. Do we need to look at the description for the research and analyze? If so, can you tell me where it is? The problem is I went ahead and hid that. And even if you took a look at it before, you'd be confused. Like, why are you asking me questions about this when we're not going to be doing that assignment in the first place? Well, what I decided I'm going to do, just go ahead and take the test as it is, and we'll go ahead and call those 10 points a freebie. That was my bad, and I really should have had a better opportunity for you there in terms of an essay, but don't worry about answering that question at all. Just go ahead and hit those multiple choice questions. And if you're committed and bright enough to be checking in right now, then you get a heads up that you don't need to spend any time on that at all. So yeah, you'll get those 10 points for free, and we'll deal with the second research and analyze assignment as we get moving forward. The next question says, are we going to have enough time for 8 tests, like you said? I can't remember off the top of my head how many tests we're going to have. I think in the end, there might be 7 tests counting the final. We can take a look and see. But so far, the research and analyze thing might have gotten upset, but for the most part, I'm really excited. Assignments, tests, deadlines, they all seem to be working out just fine, which is really cool. So yeah, in the end, I think we should be on track to have the number of tests that we need. I should be having more grades popping in there in the next few days, which is really good. So you guys have more of an idea of where you stand and how much each test is worth, stuff like that. I know it's really important for you to know where you are in the class and I'm here to help out with that. Our next question is tied in with class material, asking, what is your favorite persuasive technique and why? Let me go ahead, and I thought my phone was on silent, but I actually just recently got a new phone, which means I have no idea how to use it, which is problematic, as you can imagine. Um, my favorite persuasive technique, I think it's funny because there's a difference between my favorite persuasive technique to use and my favorite one to talk about. I think my favorite one to talk about is induced compliance because it gives us a really great opportunity to look into the machinery that operates within our heads. That, it seems really counterintuitive that you could ask a person to do a thing and that could cause them to change their minds, but that's absolutely the case, right? That you would think that, you have to convince somebody to want to do something before they do it. But, I told you guys about the case of President Johnson during the Vietnam War. There are lots of other times too that, like, I think about my parents forcing me to do yard work as a kid, and now that's actually something I kind of enjoy and look forward to. And of course, like, that yard work is a separate issue now. Like, it's not work that I do inside, but also part of it was the clever way that my parents employed that yard work in a persuasive way. That in a way they made me do that yard work, and then they had me talk about, what pride I took in the job that I had done. And then they were careful to avoid the role of over justification. They never like gave me money or rewards for doing it. And they may have said that it was part of building character to do it that way, but it actually caused me to internalize and privately accept that, maybe I do like doing this because I didn't have alternate explanations for why I did it or enjoyed doing it, which really is that important part of induced compliance. Of course, like, I find it takes so much energy to make use of these kinds of persuasive techniques that I don't use on an everyday basis, that, I'm always anxious they're going to backfire, that I'll get caught in the act and the person is going to experience that psychological reactance and push back against me, that I really don't use any of the fancy persuasive techniques, the foot in the door in the face, all of that stuff. In fact, I'm really not a very persuasive person at all. I think mostly what I try to do is make use of mood maintenance and mood maintenance theory, as well as negative state relief hypothesis. Part of this is that I have a pathological need to be liked by people, so it comes really natural anyway to, like, do things to make people feel good, give them a present or a compliment before asking questions, listen to them, and point out places where they've done things right, like make them feel really good before asking a favor, because that's something that I kind of like to do anyway. And then I suppose if I'm going to try to persuade somebody to do something, I try to, employ self-verification theory and line it up as something that, really lines up with who they are anyway. The thing is that in the end, my use of these things isn't disingenuous at all, because it's all kind of normal stuff I do anyway. It would be really kind of out of the blue. There's some people I know who are just like really critical people, and it would be a really odd thing for them to start giving people compliments. But, that's something I kind of shoot to do anyway, of course, partially because I want people to like me, but also because I think the world would kind of be a better place if we all tried to focus on each other's strengths and the positives of situations in our relationships and stuff like that. And plus, even if you don't get what you want, then, maybe the other person likes you more, and you've shared a little bit of positivity with them, which I don't think is a bad thing. Our last question, do you prefer teaching online or in class? And, this is a really tricky question. I was talking with a coworker just today about how much she absolutely hates teaching online, and I felt the same way. And I think in the end, so much of what we do, like, we feel like we hate something mostly because we're not good at it. Remember that connection when it comes to self-enhancement theory and motivation, that we often imagine motivation is something you can't change. If you don't like something, you just won't like it. And that in the end, you're not good at it because you don't like it. And that's okay then, right? Like, I don't like basketball. I'm not very good at basketball. So it doesn't really bother me that I'm bad because I don't like it anyway. What social psychologists point out, however, is that maybe the reason I don't like basketball is because I'm not good at it. And if I took the time to be good at it, maybe I'd be better. This doesn't mean that in order to get good at something, you just have to like power through and push through. Like, if you're like, I hate math, so I'll just study it 8 hours a day until I'm good at it, like, that won't work great. You have to find a way to practice getting good the same way that you would like any other skill. Start easy and build up. That's a long way of saying that in the end, like, I feel really comfortable with online teaching and I like online teaching. I don't know that I'm good at it, but there's a lot that I've learned to find exciting about it as I've gotten better. It's gotten less scary, and I feel less like all I'm going to do is just like record my lecture for the week and post it, or assign a textbook chapter and then questions to go with that chapter. And I'm a lot more like, hey, is there a cool thing I could do? Like weekly Q&A, or record a video on the way to the park, or there's a project I'm going to be working with other faculty in my department on, where we talk about like the social science behind the pandemic and the COVID response and what's happening there. And we'll take different perspectives: psychology, anthropology, sociology, geography, and political science, as well as an historical perspective on pandemics like these, to really see like maybe why what we're seeing here is all but inevitable, right? Like we've talked about. So there's some really cool stuff there, and that's what we can get excited about, which is probably a good thing, because I think what we all need to be doing right now is embracing the possibility that regardless of what our state government says, and regardless of what Santa Fe and the university say, the world this fall is going to look really different. And as much as, I'm talking with students who are having to do their UF orientation and getting ready to stay in dorms and stuff, like, it's maybe not going to work out that way. And even if it does, that experience in the dorms won't be the experience it was before, and the experience in classrooms won't be the experience it was, and we have to be ready to move online at a moment's notice if we really need to. I was looking at how, the COVID stuff, I was listening to a podcast about how it's upended everything from education to the way that we date people, to, how we have reunions with family members, all the way to like how Sony and Microsoft might price their new consoles coming out. And that, maybe, they're both looking at this idea of having video game consoles that don't need physical like CDs or DVDs anymore. And maybe that's good, as they prepare for a world where supply chains could be upended at any moment, and that you don't want sales of the latest video game or movie to be contingent on your ability to secure physical media, that streaming is going to be the way to make it successful. So in the end, like, I think I like them both, and that makes me feel good, because I think we got to be ready to do stuff in the safest way possible. Plus, there's always like exciting new stuff to practice, like my fancy cool new background here. Whoops, you can see like one of the things I'm messing with, you can see I've got my background here, but I really like the fact it helps me knock out my microphone too. So hopefully you guys get a little bit better sound. You get those nice deep lows and not quite so much echo while we're doing our live streams. So I'm going to be looking for some more like cool stuff for us to do this semester as we wrap things up. But look out for some more cool stuff tied to COVID and the COVID response and how social scientists look at it. And I think that pretty much like wraps up our stuff for this week. I know it was kind of a short one, but I'll be hitting y'all up for more questions for our next live stream and maybe other cool stuff to do. If you have questions, of course, you don't have to wait till the live stream to send those bad boys into me. You can text or call me at 352-327-8259. You can send me Canvas messages or email me at ryan.keith@sfcollege.edu. Or you can meet with me during my office hours. Remember, Monday and Wednesday from 2 to 3, and Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 8. Of course, you can just try to like drop in during office hours. I might be with someone else or away from my computer at the moment. So if you really want to make sure you're able to lock that down, jump on Canvas and schedule a time to talk with me. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. I really hope you stay safe. Remember, wear a mask, not to protect yourself, but to protect the people around you that you care about. And if you can at all, just keep a distance from other people to protect everybody. Yeah, if you have questions, let me know. But until I talk to you guys in our next live stream, I'm your Professor Ryan Keith, and this is Social Psychology.